So around that time when we were meeting at the chapel, there were some events here in Ramsgate as well, notably at the Queen Charlotte, as well as Writers Unleashed, which I was hosting and which Emile supported. There was a series of poetry events at the Queen Charlotte, that Emile also attended and was part of, and a monthly poetry open mic hosted by Peter Easter, and that's where our next performer makes an appearance, and is now a member of Multiverse Poets, so that's us in green. Emile attended all of these events regularly, and he gave his unstinting encouragement and support to us, to many of us. And I know in Paul's work there's a definite echo, well, the surreal, the bizarre, the fiction that could in an instant we fear suddenly become terribly real or not, and we're never quite sure. But I know it's someone, I know without doubt Emile passed on a baton or two, and Paul's someone that I think definitely grasped a little bit of that baton. So welcome to the stage, please, Mr. Paul Adams.
Evening, everyone. So this is the Big I Am. So a little poem about a character called David. So it was back in 56. I moved across the Himalayas with a flask and little else. Having climbed to the summit of Everest, I had the locals in my thrall back in the towns of Nepal. While crossing a bejewelled landscape that parted at my feet, was bear witness to a sunset in parallel eclipse. Stopping off in Kilimanjaro, I happened upon Jesus in a cave. He told me, "David, it's true you are blessed, but with me you'll find." And I said, "Jesus, you're behind the curve by 1,000 years or more, my Lord. Everything was mine now to be explored. Your religion was passé, I'm afraid. All ideas for me were fair game." And he said, "Do not covet Satan, my son." And I said, "Been there, done that, my friend." And I came out unscathed, and he looked at me with his dialectical 1,000-year history beard and said, "Fair play. What do I know? I'm only the son of God." And I say, "No offence. You have to understand I've been everywhere, had everyone, seen everything. Yes, I've done it all. So you see nothing surprises me." And I said, "So Jesus, what's left? A box or an urn, I guess?" "Well, I've done both several times. I've been back from the dead and then been buried again." "And you only did it once, my friend." "I've been sieved into soil. I've had my hands and arms and legs chopped off. And in a magnanimous act of pure selflessness, I laid my neck on the block. I wrote a best-selling treatise on my own execution, blow by blow, if you can excuse the pun. And you, my lord, a few tacks on the cross, and you hung around in the sun too long. But you know, I was up there once, lit up amongst all that darkness. Others always ask, 'David, what was it like out in space?' And I said, 'Yeah, all right, I guess.' Recall it was 57 when I was rattling around the stratosphere with Laker in a tin can primitive rocket ship, and then I'm asked, 'Surely then, that makes you the first man in space?' And I said, 'No, not a man, merely space dust back then. Collapsed down into the rawest of elements, floating around a vacuum in those long endless nights, surfing the rings of Saturn, tumbling amongst the rock and ice. I spent my hours playing around with Fermat's last theorem, travelled the breadth of galaxies in a blink. It's true to say I turned the theory of relativity on its head. But I was bored with the unending emptiness of space, so I hitched a lift on an asteroid back. In a curious distortion of space-time, it was billions of years ago in this planet's torrid past. Flowing amongst the lava fields and raging storms, bits of me bubbling over the gnarling igneous rocks. Never one to rest on my laurels, I seeded the genetic lineage of 1,000,000 complex life forms, and more latterly with my master of quantum states, cuddled up with a cat in a box. Schrödinger was deaf to pass judgment on such a master who was neither alive nor dead, but both at once. But languishing in a superpositional state was never going to be enough. So I tunnelled through a wormhole. It's with you here now I ended up. Well, it wasn't long before such a precocious intelligence garnered the attention of big tech, who had for many years been seeking out such a suitable candidate. David, David, they cried, your intelligence is quite unique. And with your tacit approval, we'd like to integrate it into the next generation of our chips. See, for years they'd struggled with defective learning models, underperforming algorithms. That was, of course, until they discovered me. Well, my neural map from that point became trademarked. It can now be found in those overbearing avatars, bookended emoticon cheeky winks, in your phones, in the pixel docs of your screens, and with carefully studied psychological tricks woven deep within the web of neurons in billions of nodding heads. So the question is, when you've mastered the macro, the micro, been at one with all in the universe, had everyone, seen everything, done it all, what's left? I might do a little short one because I feel this is kind of.
We're not pushing for time.
Yeah, this is unplanned. So this is called Box Stick, and this is kind of tribute to all of those people that on the outside of mainstream of life, which we all can be identified with. Anyway, it's called Box Stick. Feeling through the hours with a glass, they say his charcoaled, straggled hair is thinning. His face is as gaunt as a corpse, yet he's still standing there. Same day, different week, saying I never wanted to tick a box. Never wanted in with all that. Not a box-ticking exercise, him. Flexing ideas outside the boundaries, listening to white noise, drones pipe through the whales' arseholes. And smiles as he sucks in his gut. My friend, I never wanted to tick a box. His liver isn't fit to be fed to the pigs. His skin breaks out and fits. From his teeth we are reading rings. And from the chatter, new blood. How many years have you been doing this? And smiles, I'm good for the hours. Don't judge me because I am what you're not. This one here standing in his regular spot declares to all in earshot that he was never going to tick that box. And he does the casual sweep of the haunts. His face now notorious. On first name terms with multiple generations. His life in their stories. The one who never stopped, the one who wanted to avoid becoming something, one of them at all costs. And he does his little dance over the hours regular as clocks. His mouth slurs at the oft-repeated mantra, never want to tick the box, never ever want to tick that box. Ignores all the derision, says the words follow you like chains, but if you still have the gift of individual thought, then you will never succumb to their mode of being and will never tick that box. Catch him in the twilight, the period before dawn, his brain a fried jumble of everything and more. Cast a net out to the legends who died before you were born. His references may be obsolete, even the young now look old, but he was still comfortable, he never relented. As long as he could still move, he vowed he'd never stop, the one who'd never follow the everyman path and would never ever tick a box.
I think we're all celebrating someone who would never, ever, ever tick a box, and what box would we put Emile in? I have no idea. So